Welcome back to Life in Balance. I'm Denise. Today, we're tackling a powerful book that can change your perspective on loneliness. The Art of Being Alone. Solitude is My Home. Loneliness Was My Cage by Renuka Gavrani. We'll explore its key chapters, share real-life examples, and uncover actionable strategies for personal growth. Whether you're feeling isolated or simply curious about the power of solitude, this video is for you. Grab your favorite drink and let's get started. Chapter 1. Understanding Loneliness. Renuka starts by shedding light on loneliness, describing it as an emotional signal that something deeper needs attention. It's not just about being physically alone, it's the pain of feeling disconnected from others, and often from yourself. This chapter is about recognizing loneliness as a natural part of life and using it as a wake-up call to reconnect. Example. Let's take Sarah. She's a single mother, balancing work and parenting, yet she feels profoundly lonely. Even when surrounded by people, she feels invisible and unappreciated. What she didn't realize was that she had stopped paying attention to her own emotional needs, prioritizing everyone else over herself. Her loneliness wasn't about being physically alone, it was about being emotionally disconnected from herself. In-depth takeaways. Loneliness is not a flaw. It's your mind's way of signaling the need for emotional reconnection. Reflect on the areas of your life where you might be neglecting your own needs. Start small. Acknowledge your feelings without judgment. Journaling can be a helpful tool here. Practical tips. Write down moments when you feel lonely and try to identify patterns. Ask yourself, what am I really longing for right now? Chapter 2. Embracing Solitude. In Chapter 2, Renuka shifts from discussing loneliness to exploring solitude. Solitude is intentional and empowering, unlike loneliness, which often feels imposed. Solitude is where you discover who you are when the world grows quiet. Example. Think about John, a software engineer who felt burnt out. He decided to spend a weekend alone at a cabin in the woods. Initially, the silence felt overwhelming. He kept reaching for his phone, but by the second day, he felt a calmness he hadn't experienced in years. He journaled, walked in nature, and realized he needed to pivot his career. Solitude gave him the clarity he couldn't find in his busy everyday life. In-depth takeaways. Solitude is a sacred space to recharge and gain clarity about your life. It allows you to detach from societal expectations and tune into your true self. Choosing solitude is not about avoiding people, but about finding balance. Practical tips. Schedule me time every week, even if it's just an hour. Start a solo activity like yoga, painting, or walking without distractions. Chapter 3. Self-discovery in solitude. This chapter is all about peeling back the layers of external expectations and reconnecting with your true identity. Renuka emphasizes that solitude creates space for self-discovery. Example. Emma, a marketing executive, always felt like she was living someone else's life. During the pandemic, she started spending evenings alone, revisiting her love for painting. Over time, she realized she wanted to transition into a career that aligned with her creative passions. Through solitude, she reconnected with the dreams she had buried long ago. In-depth takeaways. Solitude helps you uncover your authentic self, free from external pressures. Use this time to reflect on what truly brings you joy and fulfillment. Reconnect with hobbies or interests you've sidelined due to life's busyness. Practical tips. Try journaling prompts like, "What did I love doing as a child?" Create a vision board during your alone time to visualize your goals. Chapter 4. Overcoming the Fear of Being Alone. Renuka tackles a big obstacle, the fear of being alone. Many of us equate being alone with rejection or failure. This chapter is about breaking that mindset and finding strength in solitude. Example: Mark, a young professional, always dreaded eating alone in public. One day, he challenged himself to have coffee at a cafe without scrolling through his phone. Over time, he worked up to dining solo at restaurants. What he discovered was liberating. He didn't need anyone else's presence to feel confident or content. In-depth takeaways. Fear of solitude often stems from societal norms that equate being alone with failure. Facing your fear in small steps helps you build comfort and confidence. Learn to value your own company as much as you value others. Practical tips. Start with small challenges, like a solo coffee date or movie night. Practice affirmations like, "I am complete on my own." Chapter 5. Solitude as a creative space. Solitude isn't just peaceful, it's productive. In this chapter, Renuka explores how being alone can unlock your creative potential. Example: Ashley, a freelance designer, always struggled with creative blocks. She decided to dedicate one evening a week to uninterrupted alone time, free of emails and notifications. During these sessions, her creativity flourished. She came up with innovative ideas that impressed her clients. In-depth takeaways. Creativity thrives in solitude because it removes distractions. Use your alone time to explore new ideas, experiment, and let your imagination run free. Silence allows your mind to process and innovate. Practical tips. Set aside creative solitude time in your week, even for 30 minutes. Keep a notebook handy to jot down ideas during your quiet moments. Chapter 6. Building Resilience. Through solitude, solitude isn't just about self-care, it's about self-strength. This chapter focuses on how solitude builds emotional resilience. Example: After a painful breakup, Mia spent months avoiding her emotions by keeping busy. When she finally allowed herself to sit in silence, she processed her grief and emerged stronger. Solitude taught her to trust herself again. In-depth takeaways. Solitude forces you to confront your emotions, which is essential for healing. Building resilience means learning to rely on yourself for validation and support. Facing discomfort in solitude helps you grow stronger and more self-reliant. Practical tips. Try mindfulness meditation to observe your thoughts without judgment. Use alone time to set goals and track your personal growth. Chapter 7. The spiritual side of solitude. Solitude has a spiritual dimension. Renuka shows how being alone allows you to connect deeply with your inner self or a higher power. Example: Jacob spent an hour each week sitting by a lake, watching the sunset. He found these moments to be deeply spiritual, helping him feel connected to something greater than himself. In-depth takeaways. Solitude creates space for reflection, prayer, or connection with nature. Silence and stillness can help you find peace and clarity. Embrace solitude as a way to nurture your soul. Practical tips. Spend time in nature or create a sacred space at home for reflection. Try guided meditations or spiritual readings during your quiet time. Chapter 8. Balancing solitude and connection. Renuka concludes by emphasizing the importance of balance. While solitude is powerful, meaningful connections are equally vital. Example: Luis spends Saturday mornings hiking alone to recharge, but he always meets friends for dinner afterward. This balance keeps him grounded and fulfilled. In-depth takeaways. Healthy relationships and alone time complement each other. Learn to identify when you need connection versus when you need solitude. Both are essential for a well-rounded, fulfilling life. Practical tips. Create a routine that includes both solo and social activities. Be intentional about nurturing relationships and your inner self. Renuka Gavrani's The Art of Being Alone is a transformative guide to turning solitude into your greatest ally. Remember, being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means choosing to grow, reflect, and reconnect with your true self. Which chapter resonated most with you? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need these lessons. Until next time, embrace the art of being alone.